Yo, what's going on, everyone? Welcome to Blackish University, Griots in a Modern World. I wanted to take some time to add to the collection of ways to possibly defend yourself when when you have charges brought up against you, right? The idea being, not to get these charges and think that you're able to beat them, but this is more or less for someone who doesn't have the ability to get a good attorney, right? They're a little bit worried. They were just hit with this charge, and it's very hard, especially in the legal world, to get just very straightforward advice. A lawyer has to be careful that they're only explaining things in hypothetical situations, and they have to make sure that there's not an understanding that you're possibly being represented by someone. So it's hard to say to someone, I just caught this charge drinking in public. Do I have to be worried? What am I facing? What's my best defense? So I wanted to put together a video of just what I would tell my kids, right? What I would tell my nephews, what I would tell people here that are possibly fighting this type of charge. Now, as you guys know or are well aware, let's just take drinking in public, for example. Drinking was illegal many years ago. Even before my day, there was what's called prohibition, right? But drinking has been legalized. And when they legalized it in a private setting. Now, I'm in the state of Illinois. I'm just outside of Chicago. But drinking in public is still seen as what they consider socially irresponsible. And it's something that you can be arrested for. Now, it's not just the act of drinking, right? That's the offense. It's really, it can be carrying an open container of alcohol in a public space. Or you can be transporting that, which is also grounds to be charged. And that's important because the lesson here is don't drive around with open liquor. It's not okay to take one for the road. For the youngsters, we've all did it. You're pre-gaming in the car. Shots of Henny, the apple juice, or the Coke, or whatever. It doesn't matter if you are drunk. If you have open liquor in the car, you can be charged with this crime. And now this will hold in court too. Again, you don't need to be drinking. It just needs to be an open bottle, and the person that is responsible for that car is going to get this charge, okay? Now, again, you're going to want to check different statutes or so that are based where you are. But in Chicago, it's Statute 8-4-030 that states that it's unlawful for any person to drink alcoholic liquor in a public place or in a motor vehicle upon a public way in the city. And again, my point with all of these is not to just give you this most basic definition, but it's the play on words, okay? Now, you have to be able to, you're arguing the structure of these words when you're trying to prove, if you're trying to defend yourself, okay? So, now, a driver is not allowed to carry, transport, possess, or even have alcoholic liquor in the car unless it's in its original container and it has an unbroken seal. And again, remember that because it's going to play a very big part on how you would defend yourself. Now, there is something in Illinois that states that a restaurant that is licensed and can carry liquor, they can permit you to remove a bottle. Let's say if you have wine with your wife, you don't finish the bottle of wine. Well, there is something that states that you can bring that bottle back home, but the bottle has to be properly secured or sealed and placed in a bag. Obviously, there's ways around that. There's some argument. There's some gray space there, if you would. But this is actually a pretty hefty crime. It's not your typical, jaywalking or something like that. I mean, you can be charged with what they call a Class B misdemeanor, which means that you can actually get 6 months in prison, or you can pay a fine of $100 to $500. I don't think anyone would ever get 6 months in prison for this. But remember, it's not necessarily the police aren't pulling over people that are walking around with liquor. Normally, when you're getting charged with this, you fall into one of three categories. Either you're an underage drinker, they're just pull up to a party and they're grabbing a bunch of what look like teens and they're charging them with something. This is probably what you're going to be charged with. But people that are getting DUIs, people that are actually driving under the influence that also have liquor in their car, or they could be just very drunk people that are causing like a public disturbance, right? And you have to charge them with something. This is normally what they're going to be charged with. And normally these aren't taken very serious. Again, I highly doubt that you would get 6 months in prison for this. But that's not the point. The point is that you can be arrested for this, right? There's a lot of things that are law that aren't necessarily enforced. But this is something that normally, with something else, you're being charged. Now, the big question, right? If you were charged with this, you're probably thinking, how can I beat this? What's my possible argument with this? Well, the unsealed or sealed alcohol, that's a big thing. But you also have what's called the Fourth Amendment, right? The Fourth Amendment says it gives every citizen the right to be secure that their property, in their property, but it basically protects you against unreasonable search and seizures. So let's say that you're driving on the road, you have an unsealed bottle of wine lying there. The police officer thinks that you're speeding or you didn't have your seatbelt, whatever it is. He pulls you over for a traffic violation, and there's no sign of drinking, but they choose to make you do a sobriety test, and they find that you're completely sober. And then one of the officers, let's say they open your console and they find a half-consumed bottle inside. Well, if the police then charge you for carrying unsealed alcohol, the case wouldn't hold up in court. I know a lot of people are like, what? That doesn't make sense. Well, police officers, they're not authorized to perform a search without probable cause unless you give them a reason to search you first. So let's say that you fail the sobriety test, and the wine or the beer, whatever that's in your dash, it starts leaking. It gives them a strong smell. They can smell that there's liquor coming through the car. Well, this could be probable cause, right? Or if you got to be careful if you spill liquor on yourself, or be careful when you're blowing that green because you could smell like weed, right? I know they made some changes to that, but you can actually that could be considered probable cause. So anyway, your possible legal defense with this, and again, remember, I'm in Illinois, so most of my knowledge and my research is relevant to the city of Chicago or Illinois in general. And again, in Chicago, it's one of those places, if you're walking around the street and you have a can of beer, they have the right to arrest you under the law. But anyway, your best defense, okay? Now, in my eyes, there's three. The first defense is to say that you were actually drunk, right? Now, for this to hold, you should not have acted in a way where you would have seemed drunk. So the police normally, what they do is they try to get video footage of these incidents. So the burden of proof is on the defendant, who would be you, to prove that you were sober at the time of arrest, which can be hard to do. So I would say the best defense would be to argue that you were not in a public place. As I mentioned earlier, drinking in private, like your home or let's say you're at a friend's party, it's legal in Illinois. So depending on what the circumstances are of your specific case, this could be a great defense, right? Where were you when they actually came up to you? Were you on private property? Another defense it really is to say that you weren't drinking, right? Because the most important part of that argument would be the sealed evidence. It would be the sealed bottle or whatever container of alcohol. And, let's be real. If that evidence is missing or compromised, the case wouldn't hold any ground, right? So you're questioning the validity of the entire stop, and you're just saying, no, that's not the case. The bottle was sealed. Maybe I spilled a little bit of beer on me at dinner, and that's why it smelled like alcohol, but the bottle was sealed. Let's check it out. And if they don't have that bottle to check out, and it's not in evidence, and they don't know what happened to it, which is not uncommon, especially dealing with the city of Chicago, well, now you got you got yourself a defense, right? Now, it is important to note that public drinking is not nearly the same as driving under the influence. They have completely different defenses. They're completely different from one another. A DUI is obviously much more serious, but this is just something, recommendations I would give my kid. It's just for informational purposes only. I still think you should consult a lawyer. But if you're just looking for general information as to how I can fight this, hopefully this can help you out.